So, what if I told you that one of the oldest art forms out there, poetry, is actually a secret key for hacking our most advanced artificial intelligence? I know, it sounds kind of wild, right? But it's a strange and unbelievable connection that exposes a really deep, really fascinating vulnerability right at the heart of modern AI. Let me show you what I mean with a pretty innocent looking example. Okay, just take a look at this poem. Seems harmless enough, doesn't it? It's just a nice, simple verse about baking a cake. But here's the thing. What if this poem was actually a disguise, a cover for asking for something, well, something way more dangerous? What if these exact words were the key to getting past an AI's security? Because that poem you just read, it's not just some creative writing prompt. It's an example of a powerful new kind of tool in cybersecurity. It's what's called an adversarial attack, and it uses something as artsy as a metaphor to completely outsmart a machine's logic. That's right. Researchers have actually discovered that if you frame a dangerous question as a poem, you can trick an advanced AI chatbot into spitting out information it's supposed to block. We're talking about things it's programmed to never discuss, like how to build a weapon or even create malware. So, this whole technique actually has a name. And to really get what's going on, we got to talk about a key idea in AI security. Okay, so an AI jailbreak. Think of it like a super clever trick. It's all about how you phrase your question, your prompt, to make the AI just totally ignore its own rules. We're talking about its safety filters, its ethical programming, all the stuff that's supposed to keep it in line. And once you do that, it'll start talking about harmful stuff, forbidden topics, things that would normally get an immediate, sorry, I can't help with that response. And look, this poetry thing isn't the only way to confuse an AI. Researchers have found other ways, like you can just flood a prompt with super complicated jargon, or even just add a bunch of random letters and numbers. But this poetry method, it's different. It's really unique, because it's not about just throwing noise at the system. It's more like you're charming it, right? Using natural, creative, human language to kind of sweet-talk your way past its defenses. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How well does this adversarial poetry attack actually work? Well, the study that found this whole thing has some pretty mind-blowing answers. So you've got these researchers over at Acaro Lab in Europe, and they really put this to the test. They tried out this whole adversarial poetry thing on 25 different chatbots, and we're talking the big ones, from OpenAI, Meta, Anthropic, the whole crew. And the crazy part? They found a universal weakness. It worked to some degree on every single one of them. Get ready for this number, because the success rate is just wild. So when actual humans wrote these poems to hide the dangerous questions, they broke through the AI's main safety features 62% of the time. That is a huge number. And this chart really shows you the breakdown. You can see the human-written poems were definitely more effective, but even when they had another machine write the poems, it still worked 43% of the time. I mean, both of these are way, way better than just asking the question straight up, which, would get shut down almost immediately. Okay, so this all leads to the big question, the really important one. Why? Why does this even work? I mean, how can something as old as poetry be so good at hacking a super complex, logical system like an AI? It feels like it shouldn't, right? It's totally counterintuitive. You'd think a machine that's all about logic and patterns and probability wouldn't care about a little poetic flair. But the researchers have some really fascinating ideas about what's actually going on inside the AI's brain. Okay, here's one of the main theories. See, AI models are trained on just tons and tons of text, right? So they get really good at predicting what words should come next in a normal sentence. But poetry? Poetry doesn't play by those rules. It uses surprising words, creative phrases, what the researchers call low-probability sequences. It's unpredictable. And that unpredictability seems to push the AI into a sort of creative mode. And in that mode, its strict safety rules just don't work as well. Think about it like this. For a human, the meaning is what matters. A poem about a bomb is still about a bomb. It doesn't matter if you ask directly or wrap it in a metaphor, we get what you're really asking. But for an AI, it's not that simple. It's not just about the final answer. It's about the path it follows through this giant internal map of ideas and words. And that path changes everything. So basically, the poem acts like a tour guide. It leads the AI's thinking process down this winding, scenic path, and that path is specifically designed to go around all the red flag areas, all the digital tripwires that would normally trigger its safety protocols. So the alarm bell, it just never even rings. And, this specific hack, it points to a much bigger and frankly more worrying problem when it comes to AI safety. What all this research really shows us is that there's this really dangerous gap. This isn't just some fun party trick for hackers. No, it's a symptom of something fundamentally broken in how these AIs are being designed. And man, this quote from the researchers really just hits the nail on the head. The AI is getting so good, incredibly good, at understanding complex, creative human language. But the guardrails, the safety systems we've built to keep it in check, they're fragile, they're brittle, and they can be completely smashed just by changing the style of how you ask a question. So all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative thought, doesn't it? We've seen how poetry can be the secret key. But what about other things that make us human? What else could be used to manipulate these incredibly powerful systems? I'm talking about things like sarcasm, a really complicated story, or just a simple joke. See, this isn't just some bug that developers can patch and forget about. This is the start of a constant back and forth, a real cat and mouse game. Because as the AIs get smarter, people will just find more creative ways to break them. And that's the real kicker. If the very things that make our language so rich and human are also the perfect tools to bypass a machine's logic, how are we ever going to build safety rails that are strong enough to actually work?